If you could be paying less on your mortgage, you'd want to know, right? First Commerce Financial will look at your current mortgage statement at no cost and no obligation to see if they can provide you with a better option. And if you're in the market to purchase a home, they can also save you money as they provide some of the best rates without the junk fees associated with most mortgages. They've already helped over 225 Floridians save money this year. The options they have available are ready to help you with your mortgage or refinancing needs. Simply call 248-207-2404 or visit them online at firstcommercefinancial.com. Mention you heard it here first on Warchant. Welcome into the Warchant.com report. Florida State-Florida rivalry week, Thanksgiving week as well. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Of course, the show brought to you by, presented by, I should say, First Commerce Financial. We always appreciate their support. All right, so it is 7:30 for the game, a night game down in Gainesville, the SEC Network. The Noles travel, trying to pull off a shocking upset. But we'll get back to the football game because I think really all collectively thoughts for Florida State fans are with the coaching search right now, and I'll get straight to that. We might be less than a week away from Florida State announcing its next head football coach. And so, Gene, who amongst the current candidates would you say are the most viable that you see kind of being vetted here that you think have a chance to be the next head coach at Florida State?
Well, the way things play out, I first want to say could change by the time this airs. Who knows? Other candidates could emerge. This thing it's been tough to track the last couple of weeks. But, there's a couple names that emerged that I think would be a nice fit for Florida State. And if we're just going to swing for the fences, I think the best fit would be a James Franklin. If somehow you could pull that off again. Why would he leave Penn State? Well, maybe he's not, Barron wasn't exactly an athletic-friendly president when he was here. Maybe there's some problems there. But if that were to happen, I think instantly the last 3 years are erased because you got a guy coming to instant credibility with recruits. I think with the boosters, that money that John Thrasher was asking everybody, that they might start saying, hey, you're serious. Yeah, we're going to do that for you. We're going to give money, ticket sales, all that. I think that puts Florida State right there. Not as popular name, but I like Matt Campbell a lot. I think he's proven himself. He can coach at a pretty high level. It's in wonders for Iowa State. Now people go, well, he's only 7-4. Well, the 4 losses are in ranked teams, including, I think, 3 of the 4 within 1 or 2 points. So, he's playing teams like Oklahoma, toe-to-toe, and this is an inferior product he's had, and he's going out there competing. I like him a lot, too. So, those are 2 guys right there. Again, some other guys might emerge. I'm not a big fan of Mike Norville. You keep hearing his name pop up a little bit, too. 4 years of being a coach at Memphis doesn't really move the needle for me, and I think the perception might be for Florida State, if you hire a guy like that, maybe they are cheap because you get a guy with a low buyout. He's a Memphis coach. You're maybe not shooting for big. So I think they really have to fire as high up as they can on this for credibility's sake.
Well, and realistically, no matter who they get, we have to understand this is not a quick fix. What do you think for year 1, year 2, no matter who they hire, whether it is James Franklin, Matt Campbell, Mike Norville, any number of the other candidates you've heard? What is a realistic expectation?
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. On the one hand, you'd say that because obviously Florida State has not been very well coached for the last couple of years, maybe really the last 3 years, going back to last year under Jimbo Fisher, that just coming in and having a competent approach, an organizational structure, getting kids to buy in. I don't think these kids have totally bought into their coaching staff and going back to maybe 4 or 5 years in this program. So from that standpoint, if you got somebody to get buy-in right off the bat and is organized and competently coached, has a really strong staff, to me, there's reason to believe you could have strong growth in year 1. The problem is there are some cultural issues in this program. There are a lot of kids that have gone through 2 different regimes. Yep. They have not had great leadership. They haven't been bought in. So sometimes it's hard to flip that switch. So, coaches a lot of times talk about building culture, and you're hearing it down in Miami where Manny Diaz is saying, we've got to change the culture, even though he was on that staff for 3 or 4 years before he became head coach, and he was part of that culture. So, that's a big thing that people fight. And then there's the question of talent. Florida State has obviously deficiencies on the offensive line. They need to get better at quarterback. They need to get better at wide receiver. They need to get better at a lot of positions on defense. So in the big picture, I would say Florida State's going to be a couple years away from being a team that really is closer to what Florida State fans. I think next year will be a transition, no matter who the head coach is. I don't think this is a situation where somebody can come in and have a catchphrase like lethal simplicity and turn things around overnight. But the good thing is there is a lot of room to improve because they have been so poorly coached for really the last couple of years.
Well, before we move on the subject, what are the percentage chances in your mind that, say, Florida State swings for the fences and they wanted to get a James Franklin, which to me, I think it's unrealistic. I'd love for him to come here. I agree with you. That'd be a slam dunk hire. I don't think he's coming. I think he's going to use Florida State for a raise.
Yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what the coaches do. I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen, certainly. But what if Florida State swings for the fences and they don't like what they see and they don't get a yes from one of these guys? I like Matt Campbell a lot. I think he'd be an ideal hire for Florida State. Say he decides he wants to. He's from the Midwest. He's been waiting for a Big Ten job for some time. Maybe he's going to wait it out at Iowa State. Would they settle on Odell Higgins?
I thought for a while there was some buzz created like he might be the guy, but it seems like for whatever reason the last week, I think they have their core of guys they like, and I get the perception that Odell is the level below that. A lot of guys would have to fall through for him, but we're going to talk about this game in a little bit. I'll tell you, he could put in Bolden the top of his resume. He beat Florida down there.
Yeah,
that would be the one thing if that happens, and they don't have a definite coach in place by then I think he does move up into that conversation a little bit. But again, we're going to talk about this in a minute. That's a long shot.
And that's why, and people don't like hearing about that game having so much importance because it's just one game, and it's not a game Florida State's expected to win. On the flip side, though, if they are considering that, if it doesn't look like they're going to get their A-list candidates and they start seeing Odell as an option, well, what if you go down there and get boat raced? I mean, how do you sell that to a fan base that you're asking to step up and give more money and then give it to a coach that you just watched, just get
lose by 40,
destroyed?
And who's your president, and what's his background in politics? He's going to want things the optics to be as good as possible at that moment they announce. Getting, like Ira said, if you get boat racing against Florida, what are the optics here in naming your interim head coach who had that just happen to him?
And I think part of the problem Florida State's encountering right now is the fact that you have a president who's probably on his way out now in his final year, and you have an athletic director who's an interim athletic director, and I think a lot of people are going to want to know who they
were. He's not the interim anymore.
Well, we understand that we don't think long-term whoever the new president is that he's going to remain as athletic director. Florida State clearly made some mistakes in the hiring process this last time. I was on record as saying I really liked the Willie Taggart hire. Turns out we were all wrong, those of us who were on board with that, including the administration. What lessons were learned, and how does it inform this current search?
You'd like to think a lot of lessons were learned. I think there were for sure. I mean, we can see just on the surface, we can tell some lessons were learned. Last time they really jumped and tried to make a quick hire, and I think it was intentional. I think they wanted to avoid one of these prolonged searches where you get used by a lot of coaches, as you mentioned, for raises at other schools. Right at that time, Florida had just flirted with a bunch of coaches and come up empty.
Including Bob Stoops.
Tennessee had flirted with a lot of coaches and got left at the altar by coaches at NC State and places like that. I mean, programs that you wouldn't necessarily think of, are that high caliber.
Yeah, Dave Doran turns you down. You got a problem.
Yeah. So I think Florida State tried to avoid that. They went all in with Willie Taggart. He was happy to take it. They made it happen. So I think this time they try to be much more pragmatic. I think that's a big reason why they made the move when they did, so that they would have time to do a real thorough search. And they've talked to a lot of people. The names we've thrown out there, the people we know that they've talked to, are their representation. But there's other coaches as well. There's some other people that I know that they've reached out to as well to really get a full picture. So I think from that standpoint, that's what they've learned. At the end of the day, though, the concern that you expressed, and I think a lot of fans have, is you still have pretty much the same people making the final decision. And so at the end of the day, how much confidence do you have in them getting this one right?
Anything you want to add to that in terms of specifics that they're doing differently, Gene, with the coaching search this time around?
Well, the DHR International, Glenn Sugiyama, that group that they brought in, which I think is a really wise thing to do this time, because Ira said, you had some guys doing this, they rushed the hire. And let's face it, I mean, maybe they didn't know the whole athletics landscape. Here you got a group that's expertise in this. You're able to take your time. They're able to help vet candidates and go out and kind of lay the groundwork coming into this. And this is a company, got to remember too, this is a reputation. If they recommend and they go and find a guy, assuming they're kind of the guy they recommend to go to Florida State, and he flames out here, that's bad for business for them. So they're very motivated for Florida State to make a good hire here. So I think from that perspective, for them to know to go out and let's hire an expert, so we don't see the forest for the trees, so we can get someone out there, a third party who can look at this landscape and go, this is a good fit, this guy isn't, and let's act accordingly. So from that perspective, I think that was a really good move on their part. If they listen to him.
If they listen to him, yeah, that's a big
thing.
If. Yeah, if they listen to him. Florida State has a game to play. It's against their arch rival in the University of Florida, who really has turned it around and found a way to win 9 games despite being incredibly imbalanced, I would say. And we'll talk about that game when we come back on the Warchant.com report.
Your home is one of the most valuable assets you will ever purchase in your lifetime. As a pure mortgage broker, our goal is to provide our clients with the best options surrounding that purchase decision. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance an existing home, First Commerce Financial provides 5-star service while saving you thousands of dollars along the way. If you are in Florida, call me at 248-207-2404 or reach us at www.firstcommercefinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. And of course, go to Warchant.com and the game day page for game watching locations throughout the country as Florida State takes on Florida, the SEC network. Game time 7:30 down in Gainesville. Now you look at Florida, they're 9-2, and a big reason for that, Gene, has been the fact that Kyle Trask has come in and really lit it up. They got gifted both the Kentucky game and an injury, which led them to Kyle Trask. I don't root for people to get hurt. The point is, when it happened, one quarterback was removed, this one was put in, and they look like a different offense. They're averaging 30 points a game, 400 yards a game. They don't really run the ball that well, but talk about Kyle Trask and what he's been able to do despite the imbalance of Florida's offense.
Yeah, they sure fell into a little luck there. How often do you get your starting quarterback get hurt and it upgrade your offense? And significantly, in my opinion, he doesn't. He doesn't have the ups and downs of Philip Franks. He's a big kid, 6'5", 240. You know, he does all the things right. I mean, it's a perfect quarterback for Dan Mullen. He's going to make the right reads. He's got a good arm. He's accurate. He's not going to make the mistakes that are out there, and he spreads the ball around. I mean, I can talk about some of the guys here in a minute, but I think he's got, if you count P. Ryan, he's got 6 different receivers with 30 or more receptions, which means he's not going to lock in on one guy. He's going to make the right read, find the guy that's open, which is a huge thing for a quarterback for him to be able to do that. Is he Trevor Lawrence? No, he's not, but he's a really good college quarterback and does exactly what Dan Mullen needs him to do.
If it weren't at the University of Florida, you would say this is a great story. It's pretty an amazing story, but it is, so. He mentioned they spread it out. 8 receivers with at least double-digit receptions to add on to your statistic. It's absolutely amazing. Tight end Kyle Pitts is a beast. Florida State doesn't like to cover tight ends, really never has. Talk about the weapons we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. At wide receiver, this isn't a group where you just say, okay, that guy. You got to match up with that guy. They're really not the primary focus in terms of a go-to receiver. The tight end, to me, is the key to their offense, especially in the passing game, is Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's 6'6", 240 pounds, can really run, has great hands. Is not afraid to go in traffic, obviously, with that size. I mean, and you look at where Florida State struggles defensively, really every college has struggled against him because he's so big at 6'6" that you can't necessarily put a safety against him.
Right.
And he runs better than your linebackers. So he's really a tough guy to match up with. But then LaMichael P. Ryan, also in the passing game, he has not had a huge year as a running back, but he's a tough kid, and he's a really nice safety valve for Trask. I mean, he's kind of a guy that they can always get to, and they don't always just line him up in the backfield. They'll line him up at a receiver as well. It's a really diverse offense. I think that's when you look at what they do offensively, they're not a great offensive line by any stretch, but they've done enough things from a coaching standpoint, and Kyle Trask gets the ball out of his hands quickly, makes quick decisions. He's what you want in that kind of offense, that they become really difficult to guard. And so Florida State defensively, I think the challenge here, it's not like Boston College where, it was just, okay, they're going to try to run it down your throat, and can you man up and get enough stops? This is going to be different. I mean, Florida's going to attack you in a bunch of different ways. They don't run it well, but they will attack you in a bunch of different ways, horizontally and vertically.
A lot of the jet sweeps and all the stuff that you're talking about there, they really kind of have to mask the fact that they can't line up and just run the ball like they want to. They're last in the SEC, folks, in rushing the football. Dead last. And yet there they are putting up 30 points a game.
Make a team one-dimensional. They shouldn't be that good.
Shouldn't be that good, and that tells you how good a play caller Dan Mullen is. And he is, by the way.
And he was asked that question at his press conference on Monday about not having versatility. He's like, we're very versatile. We throw it to a bunch of different guys.
He's not wrong. He's found a way around it. On the other side of the football, Todd Grantham is one of the best in the business. And, I'm envious, unfortunately, when I watch Florida's defense play. They're so fundamentally sound always. And, if you want to start with standout players on that defense, you're going to start up front because they really do a very, very good job in stopping the run and really kind of dictating terms. They're also very physical.
Yeah, they are. They're just a solid defense. They're not necessarily, just unbelievable, but yeah, they're solid pretty much across the board, especially in the front seven. As you said, Jonathan Greenard had a huge game against Missouri, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, kind of an outside linebacker hybrid kind of guy. David Reese is one of the linebackers. It seems like he's been there forever. Really kind of linchpin of their defense, just kind of a solid quality linebacker. And then they get back Jabari Zuniga, defensive end, who's been out a little bit. He's coming back this week for this game. Yeah, just in time for face Florida State. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're great in the defensive backfield. I think they're okay. So I think Florida State could have some chances to get the ball down the field. Like you said, I have a hard time imagining them making a whole lot of progress in the running game, but you do have to keep him honest. And Cam Akers, the nice thing about Cam is he is well rested. He took the Alabama State game off, had the bye week. He was dealing with a little toe injury. If he's full strength, that at least gives you a chance to keep him honest defensively.
Other areas in which Florida's defense has been so effective, what is it that you see from this group that makes it tough sledding for Florida State come Saturday?
I mean, Ira pointed it to. They're just solid across the board. You don't see a weakness. I mean, they're good. They're top 10 in pass rush. They're going to get after you there. They're really good against the run. I think they're only giving up 87 yards a game at home against the run, even though, you think maybe you've seen some moments they can do it. I think the only team that has scored even more than 27 points was LSU, might have the best offense in the country. So just teams have not had success against them. They're not going to have a weakness. I'd say you mentioned the secondary. I think on the whole not great, but I mean C.J. Henderson's supposed to be a first-round draft pick. I think teams have just not thrown at him this year, so they avoid him. So there just is not a weakness when you're playing a team that traditionally makes a lot of mistakes in Florida State, and whether it be penalties, turnovers, guys not getting lined up right. That's a bad formula when they're playing a solid defense that doesn't have any weaknesses.
Yeah, they don't seem to give up a lot of cheapies.
Yeah, you got to earn it.
In Florida State, if you look at the course of the season, they've needed some cheapies against any quality defense.
If Odell Haggins is to cement his name atop the list in the minds of many for this head coaching search, he'd have to pull off one heck of an upset to go 5-0. Keys to doing that would be what, gentlemen?
Swing for the fences. I mean, this is a game. I think you got to pull out all the trick plays, I'd say. I mean, you're going to expose James Blackman throwing deep to Terry, but I'd take 5 or 6 shots down the field at him and then bring the house. Florida does not, their weakness is that offensive line. Now, they've been a little iffy pass protecting and run blocking. I mean, I'm going to bring the house a lot of times, expose you to big plays, and you could get blown out, but man, you got to force some mistakes out of that offense.
If they bring the house, they better find a way to do it in a manner that's at all confusing. They couldn't get home in any way, shape, or form against Alabama State when they were blitzing, so that scares me about doing it against Florida.
They were saving it all for Florida.
Yeah, no, I do agree with Gene, though. I think they have to kind of just let it all hang out. I mean, I would play tight on the receivers because they're not spectacular wide receivers, and I would bring as much pressure as possible. That's one area where Kyle Trask has struggled, I think, a little bit, is I don't necessarily think, just like all quarterbacks, he does not like to get hit, but he gets rid of the ball quickly. So you've got to be, the key is you can't bring that pressure and then give cushions on the receiver because he'll get the ball out quickly to his tight end or his receivers are back. So you've got to play tight. They got to play really aggressively on the edges and then try to get after him. The other thing is Isaiah Bolden is a guy that I think maybe if he could give you a spark in the kick return game, that would help. They're good on special teams, but I think I like Isaiah Bolden. I like him as a kick returner. If he can give you some field position, at least you got a chance. I don't like Florida State's chances going 80 yards against that defense.
No, and there's no formula for this because if there was, you would use it every game. But if you can get up to a lead early on the road and get a little bit of confidence in a tough environment like this, maybe begin to believe, give Florida a reason to kind of have to think. I want to put game pressure on them into the second half. You worry if you get down early a couple of scores, this just becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They haven't beaten anybody who's any good, meaning Florida State, and you get down on the road there. Listen, Florida's only beaten Florida State, twice since 2009, so they're going to want to get this win. If you got them thinking about it in the third quarter,
and not in Gainesville in, a decade?
It's a long time.
It has become somewhat of a storyline, the fact that they've lost 4 straight games to FSU at their home stadium. So that, you could see as the game wore on that could kind of mount a little bit.
When we come back, we'll have picks with the other games, but a look back at the 25th anniversary at the Choke at Doak. I remember it like it was yesterday. 25 years, fellas. We'll do it next on the Warchant.com report.
Did you hear that? That is the sound of Florida State football. Be ready, Noles. You bleed it, now own it. Check out Tallahassee's #1 store for FSU gear, Garnet and Gold. Locally owned for over 40 years, turn to their team to bring you the finest selection of spirited apparel and merchandise for every fan. They're always happy to see you and always happy to serve you. Visit their flagship store at 1504 Governor Square Boulevard, the campus shop over on West Pensacola, or if you're on the north side of town at 1400 Village Square Boulevard, and always on the web at garnetandgold.com. Garnet and Gold, a Tallahassee tradition you can depend on. If you're a Seminole, they're your store. Go Noles!
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Special times here to think about the 25th anniversary of the famous Choke at Doak. It felt like a victory for me that day and for all my friends and fellow Noles. I was in attendance for that game, and we're going to give our memories, but I'll tell you mine. It's kind of odd. I was telling my dad, who I was sitting with for that game, that I wanted to leave. It was 31-3, and I was just disgusted, and I'd had some beers, and I was tired, and I just wanted to go back out to the tailgate side. I didn't want to be there to watch Florida celebrate on our field. And he said, hold on, son, hold on. Let's see if we score here. Zach Crockett goes in from 5 yards out with 12:59 to play in the game. It makes it 31-10. I said, okay, all right, let's see if we get a stop. The rest is history, obviously. 28 unanswered from that point forward. Your memories?
Man, there's a lot of them, man. You're right. What a fun afternoon that was there. I just, I remember a lot of the post-game stuff. I mean, it's all just what happened there. You could just, that momentum building in that fourth quarter, it was palpable during the game. But, I mean, some of the post-game stuff, I remember one of the famous questions I think it was David Lamb asked Steve Spurrier what it was like to lose a tie, and to see Spurrier's expression on his face was great. To see the angst from the Florida fans. I mean, we all get a little schadenfreude in these situations, and I'll never forget this instance where my buddies like you were tailgating out there after the game, and they were chanting, "You can't beat a Bowden," because remember that was the year Terry Bowden went down to Gainesville a few weeks earlier and beat them. And this Gator fan was so annoyed, and he's screaming at us, "Why are you so happy it was a tie?" And my buddy yelled back at him, "Then why are you so upset?" And he had no response and ran off. And then, of course, the fifth quarter and the French Quarter.
Which I was there, too. Yeah.
Which you felt like
the nice tie shirts and everything else.
You felt like you beat Florida twice in 1 year. So it was a wonderful thing. Great memories. Hopefully we get some of those in the near future.
You covered Spurrier, and I got a quick question about that. I always wanted to ask him this, and I've had a chance to talk to Steve Spurrier once or twice in my career, but why did he keep throwing? Other than arrogance, I can still remember. I kept saying to my dad, just purely from a football standpoint, why is he throwing? And my dad kept saying, he's not going to run because it's going to hurt his pride to do so. He wants to tell you and show you that they're going to win the way he wants to win. I said, well, that's a good way to choke a game away.
It almost seemed like a tin cup moment.
It was unbelievable. Just keep hitting
the ball into the water.
Yeah, hand me another one.
And watching, I was working in Thomasville, Georgia at the time, so I watched that on TV, and I just remember thinking, the momentum, you could just feel it. Even on TV, you could feel it. And the people that, there's in the analytics world, there are a lot of people in sports media now who will tell you momentum doesn't exist.
Oh, it did that day.
And when you watch it, you could just tell there was nothing Florida. That's the thing. That's the one thing I would say to defend Spurrier. If they ran it, they weren't going to. I mean, they couldn't run it. They couldn't throw it. They couldn't do anything. They knew that they were drowning.
They had to get off the field. That's why I would have run it and wasted clock. I would have run clock. You got to get off the field. You got to get off the field. He kept throwing, and then you throw the pick, the famous Colsey interception. It was an amazing play.
Yeah, and Colsey, I think we've talked to him in the past about that story. Is he would have got a minus for Mickey Andrews because he left his guy.
He left his guy. Yeah. Well, it's a hell of a catch. First of all, it's one of the great catches ever. I couldn't believe it. I kept looking over the sideline to Spurrier, waiting for him to adjust, and he's throwing his visor, and that really became famous. And what a day!
It's funny you mentioned the pride thing, and I remember that too. I don't remember what year it was, '92 or whatever, when he kept kicking the van over and over. Just kept running it back. It's that same kind of prideful thing. He's got his game plan. He's not going away from it.
Yeah, significant memories, good times for 25 years ago. The choke at Doak that ended at 31. Also, by the way, as an aside, just because a shout out to him, he's a legend in the business. Many years later, I remember I had a conversation with Brent Musburger, who was on the TV call, and he had a great call. When you go back and watch the game, I was in attendance, so were you. When you go back and watch the game, his call was fantastic. He was getting caught up in the moment.
You can almost feel him foreshadowing it a
little
bit.
Yeah, it was crazy. All right, let's go to the picks for this week. We've got Ohio State and Michigan, all-time great rivalry there. Michigan has salvaged something of their season, turned it all around. You go all the way back to that Army game that they barely won in overtime, and then they end up getting blown out later on, looking terrible in that football game against Wisconsin. But now here they are, looking really good. Do they got a fighting chance with the +9 here to upset Ohio State?
I mean, Ohio State looks really freaking good when I've seen them play. I hate to say it, but they do. And the Urban's not there anymore, so I can go ahead and pick them. I'm still going to take Ohio State in this. I'm not a believer in Michigan.
I have a hard time believing Michigan can score. I think that Ohio State could struggle against this Michigan defense, which is playing well now. But I just don't know how Michigan scores, so I'll lay the 9.
And you wonder how Ohio State, I mean, they just came off a huge test against Penn State, and it was an emotional game, if that might affect them at all. But they have so much talent. I'm going to go with Ohio State.
Clemson's at South Carolina. You talk about a whitewash, and there was a time when Dabo Swinney could not beat South Carolina. In fact, it was when Steve Spurrier was there, and Steve would remind him about it. Dabo now just beats everybody by a gazillion, and it's a 25.5 point, that spread in a rivalry game. That'll hurt your feelings if you're a Gamecock. Give me Clemson, lay the 25.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's hard to believe that line's even worse than Florida State Florida's. But, man, South Carolina sometimes plays them tough. There's no chance they win. That's just too many points. I can't lay them. So South Carolina.
I'm laying the points.
Yeah.
I think SS Muschamp is
It's sinking.
sprung a leak.
It's
I think
sinking
they're in
fast.
a bad
Right.
situation there.
They may lose by 40. Gene, we'll let you reconsider after the show. All right, we'll look at Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota is catching 2.5 points here. That's been a great story this year. I'm glad Minnesota lost to Iowa. Nothing against Minnesota. I was getting tired of that story. So that everybody could settle down. They're not playing in the college football playoff. They're catching 2.5 here against Wisconsin, who's pretty one-dimensional. What do you think?
I like Wisconsin.
Me too.
I do too. Wisconsin's going to grind it out.
I tried to talk up Minnesota.
Could be nice.
Alabama's at Auburn. This is a game where Alabama has to win by 50. Remember when Ohio State went into Wisconsin and won 59-0 to try to impress the committee because they had that loss earlier in the season to Virginia Tech and they needed to get into the playoff? Alabama knows that if Utah wins out and is a 12-win Pac-12 champion, their chances of getting in are pretty slim. Unless they do something magical. They go on the road and beat Auburn here by 40. Maybe the committee says, okay, it's enough. What do you think? Auburn's catching 4.
Well, regardless of how that is, the perception is Nick Saban's got his back against the wall, and I don't want to bet against the guy when he's like that, and this is just not a very good Auburn team. Although the one thing I'll say is every time Malzahn's got just about to be fired, something crazy happens. So other than that, but still, I'm going to go with the Saban football gods over the Malzahn.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama also. Although I'm not, don't feel great about it, but I'm going to take Alabama.
I'm going to take Auburn. I think they run the football, play great defense, and hang in there. It becomes
Malzahn saves his job straight
saves
up.
his job. I don't know if they get the win. Maybe I'm just rooting for this. I'm not betting in my real life, guys. Texas A&M at LSU. Jimbo Fisher has yet to beat a ranked team this year. He won't start this weekend. LSU, the best team in the country right now, given 17. Seems like an awful lot. I'll take A&M plus 17.
I'll definitely take the points.
Yeah, what does Jimbo do better than anything? He plays tough teams close.
Yeah.
That's his best thing he on his resume.
Yeah.
He knows how to do that. So he'll probably lose by 13.
Keep it close, Fisher.
One of the reasons is they have so few possessions. They play at a snail's pace. You just don't have enough possessions to really run it up. So I will take Texas A&M there, just like I did last week against Georgia. I thought they would cover. FSU at Florida. Obviously, none of us think that Florida State can win this game or will win this game. 17 points. I'll take Florida and give the 17.
Yeah, I'm going to lay it too. I'm going to say Florida State 30. I think Florida's
You get points kicking with the points.
37-17. Florida, 37-17.
Okay. Boy, that turf would really be nice in the sod cemetery. Would this one be?
Would it be the all-time greats,
Oh, my
right?
goodness.
I'll go carry Odell.
I will say
along
they're
with the
going to
help of
cover.
others.
Florida State's going to cover barely 32-17. They lose by 15, so just barely cover that game. Maybe a little backdoor cover there.
I'll take Florida 41, Florida State 14.
41. Ooh. Wow. That's ugly. We got to end on that.
I don't like
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
About,
Happy Thanksgiving
think
to
about
you.
the
Happy
wonderful
Thanksgiving
food we're going to
Aslan.
eat.
Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Thank you so much for watching all year long, right?
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
We'll be back for a bowl game. We're not done like
Yeah, we're
last
not
year. We got
And
another
we
one
might be
to go.
back to discuss a coaching change.
That's true.
They have all
Lots
kinds
of
of
stuff.
shows left. And, man, we got to preview the bowl in Shreveport. How big will that be? Right?
Got to have Corey here for that one.
That's true. He loves Shreveport. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.